Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is an interview series episode of Jim Lynch Codes. Today I have Laura Harvey on the show. Laura, thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And you're here from Maidstone in Australia?
Yeah. No, in UK.
In the UK. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And I guess maybe could you give us a little bit about your background? Just kind of how you,
Uh,
maybe not how you got into software engineering, just what you've been doing recently.
yeah, no worries. So I've just finished bootcamp. So it's a General Assembly Software Engineering Immersive, which was like a 12-week intense course in software engineering. So I finished that last Friday, and now I'm just doing my readmes, which I've been putting off for weeks.
Okay. What does that mean, the README? Is like updating the README of your projects that, okay.
Yeah, on GitHub.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things that just advice that I give to people, have GitHub page projects that you've worked on, just right, an example. Hey, look, this is some good code that I've written. I can come write good code for you. And that was something actually I really liked your portfolio website. I thought it was pretty nice.
Oh, see, I go through phases. Like I'm like, when I do it, it's like, yeah, I really love it. It's really good. And then I publish it and I'm like, I hate it. So I've actually rebuilt the whole thing. So I've spent this week rebuilding my portfolio in React.
Okay,
So it's nearly there.
cool. Yeah, awesome. And definitely that's lots of projects. You go do something, you like it, and then you make a V2 and you just start completely from scratch, and you're able to kind of fix the things that you didn't originally see last time, right? And just kind of do it a better way the second time. Hopefully. Sometimes it's worse, but
Yeah, I hope so.
cool. So maybe tell me about the boot camp, right? Because I went to Rutgers 7 years ago and they were teaching like C and Java, right? So what kind of like technologies, languages are they teaching today in boot camps?
Yes, I think with General Assembly, I think they adapt it based on the skills of the tutor. But my particular syllabus that I went through was JavaScript. We did about 3 weeks vanilla JavaScript, and then React, Express, Node. And then in the final sort of 2 weeks, we did Python and Flask.
Okay, interesting. And do you have, I know it's kind of, right? Some people just like to be sort of full stack all across database and backend and front end and CSS and everything. So have you decided, do you want to kind of specialize in one sort of thing or just work across the entire stack?
Yeah, no, I really want to work on front end.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely where my skills lie, and I really like working with React. Um, so yeah, I'm just I was known as like the CSS person at boot camp.
Okay.
Everyone would come to me and be like, "Can you fix my CSS?" And both my project groups, they were like, "Laura, the design and the front end is like all on you." So
Mm.
yeah, definitely front end for me. I mean, I understand the back end, but I don't find it as fun.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it definitely is really cool when you can, take just like a completely white blank rectangle and like turn it into some interactive, really cool thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
definitely awesome. And CSS is just like a really good skill to have, It's kind of very different from other coding, It's not so much functions that take inputs and return things. It's this kind of just a way of styling things, right? Just making them look different or kind of behave a little different.
Yeah, that's it. It's not really logic involved in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like try it out. Does it look right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of trial and error, I think, sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't work as you'd expect it to.
Right, right. Definitely. Okay, so you went to this boot camp. I'm curious, like, what were you doing before that? Are you kind of a industry job changer? Were you coming right from school?
Yeah, no, I'm a career changer. So, I mean, I left school, what, 12 years ago? Um, 13 years ago. So yeah, definitely a career changer. I never really found what it was I wanted to do, and it took me a long time to sort of find something that enthused me as much as programming does.
Mm,
And I actually found it by mistake. So I was working in like payroll and HR on the system side,
okay.
so implementation projects and helping companies implement payroll and HR solutions.
Mm,
Um, and I was just really bored, and I was looking around for courses to do in my spare time to sort of keep my brain engaged. And I this little ad popped up on Facebook for a 5-day sort of coding challenge
mm,
with Code Institute. So I tried it and I was just hooked instantly. And then that led me on to Free Code Camp and 100 Days of Code
mm-hmm.
and then eventually Boot Camp.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And it is definitely a cool story when people are just kind of become curious and it just sort of you go deeper down the rabbit hole and then suddenly there's someone paying you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there quite yet, but I can't wait until I am.
Yeah,
That's like the dream.
close. Any day now, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so did you have any like especially difficult things to learn or understand something where it was like really didn't get it and then all of a sudden it was like aha moment?
I mean, like the whole of JavaScript. I really struggled when I was teaching myself. Um, I think JavaScript was one of the main reasons that I went to boot camp because I really wanted someone to sort of review my code and tell me where I was going wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
I hoped with somebody else explaining it, I would get it. And then it was really only in building projects that it did click. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that for me is massive, um, to make sure that no matter what I learn, I've got to implement it straight away because otherwise it doesn't really sink in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Totally, yeah. And I feel like I tell people like this cycle, right? Where it's like uh reading a book or watching a video or something to learn something, then coding something out yourself, then talking to other people who are like, coders, showing them your stuff, and then they'll give you some idea of like some other thing to look into. Then you go back and look into that, and then you go code it, and then you show other people, and it's just this constant cycle. But yeah,
For
definitely a good way
sure.
to just get familiar with things and learn how to use them. So, I'm looking at my other list of questions here. Just it's definitely a thing in tech where it's so like male dominated, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any ideas of like why that is, or how we can get just like more women inspired in tech, interested in programming and software development?
I think that's a really hard one. If it was me personally back in school, it would have taken for probably a woman to come in who was in tech and explain sort of her job role and everything. I mean, it was never really floated as an option in my school.
Mm,
I did finish school quite a long time ago, and I think I was the first ever year to do finals in IT. Like in the UK, we call that GCSEs. So we
okay.
had information communication technology, and I think I was the first ever year to do it. And we took it a bit early. What we were sort of learning was how to build a website, but it was using PowerPoint.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and it was just learning, word processing and how to use an Excel spreadsheet. It didn't really go into much depth. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, someone who I was really close to as a kid, he was like my brother, his mum was my childminder. He is actually a back-end developer and sort of went straight into that from school. So it must have been around then, but certainly not encouraged for females. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
you go to all those career talks and no one ever really says, oh, no one has ever said to me, oh, have you thought about programming or a career in the IT industry? So I think it's definitely engaging with really young girls in school to just show that it's not just for teenage boys and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, like
Mm-hmm.
anybody can be a programmer. You just need to learn how. Um, it's definitely something I want to work on once I get in a role. I want to sort of start initiatives of my own in the local area. But I think it's just having open-minded workspaces as well, because I've spoken to a lot of women who say, it's fine, I got a job, it's fine getting into the industry, but then when I was in industry, everybody's behavior just made me want to leave. And so they ended up, going through and out the other side and leaving the tech industry. And I think that's something that employers need to actively work on.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yeah. And what type of things do you think employers can do to work on that? Just sort of have a better culture, more accepting of everyone, and maybe the interview process.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it's hard because if there aren't the people in the industry, you can't appoint them to the roles. So if you don't have a fair mix of 50% males, 50% females in your candidate pool, then you can't, ensure as much diversity in your team. Um, what can they do? Probably, I mean, just hire women.
Mm-hmm.
um, and support groups I think are really helpful, connecting other women in tech with each other, and just that feeling of solidarity. And I think um, it's really hard because I don't want to tar everyone with the same brush, because it's not everyone, it's not every male treats every female poorly, but I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes males naturally assume that they've got a better understanding or better knowledge, and sometimes talk down to women or mansplain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that needs to be avoided, really.
Right. And it's even like a subconscious thing sometimes, you don't realize you're doing it until someone gets offended and they're like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. So just like
Yeah, for sure.
be aware of those types of things, or how I'm just like, what do you mean? There's no racism anymore. But like black person is like, oh, well, experience it all the time. You don't because you're just white. And like, it is true
Yeah.
sometimes. Um,
Yeah, I think it's really hard. And I've heard a few women say it now that they can sort of sense someone being prejudiced towards them without them openly saying it. It's like a really weird like nuance, and
mhm,
unless you are part of a marginalized group, I think it's really hard to understand and to see the behavior that happens.
mhm. Yeah. Kind of a shame, right? Because you know, some of the best engineers that I hired were women. I feel like a lot of times it's just easier to get along with. I really like pair programming, being at a computer, talking about the code. Um, and I mean, without stereotyping too much, like, yeah, guys can be assholes sometimes. It's just, you want like
I'm sure women can be assholes too, but yeah,
That's true,
uh,
yeah.
it's hard, like you say, because not every workplace is the same, and not every culture is the same. So it's hard to do a one size fits all on what we can do to make it better.
Mhm.
But I have faith that it will get better. And it certainly, I think, during um, COVID, there's been more women getting interested because there's more people at home, looking for something to do who would normally be out at work. I mean, my cohort, there was 23 of us, and I think there were six girls, which, I mean, it's a larger proportion than you would see in many cohorts.
Mm. But it's still not totally proportional.
No, maybe one day.
Mhm. And so that kind of feeds into different topic of like that you like to do just videos, blog posts about kind of um living a healthy life, like mentally, um just relaxing and staying stable. So do you have like advice for people? I know it's definitely more of a marathon than a sprint, engineering and career. So how do you just like avoid burnout and things like that?
Yeah, it's hard. And I think, especially during boot camp, I felt really under pressure, because it is much more intense than I expected it to be.
Mm,
Um, and I was finding like in the evenings, I was just so exhausted from what I'd learned in the day. I didn't have, the energy to really go through stuff at night. But then
mhm,
I had homework and stuff. So it's definitely been more challenging during boot camp, and especially with COVID as well, because in the UK we're locked down, and especially in my area, we're what's known as a tier 3, which is the most harsh of all lockdowns. So
mm,
um, you're not really supposed to leave your house unless it's for exercise or going to the supermarket. And you're not allowed to socialize with people outside of your household.
mhm,
So it's all been it's really tough sort of few months. I've just made sure to keep up with exercise outdoors, to get me out of the house, and making sure I take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing, because when you get to that point where you want to launch your laptop out of the window, that's when like, go and take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And generally
Yep.
speaking, that helps, because you'll find that when you sit back down, you know what you're doing again. So yeah, there's that, and obviously talking to other people really helps as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think too many of us are like, oh, I'm so macho, and I don't want to let other people know that I'm struggling. But I think it's really important that you sort of be brave and reach out, because the other person might be going through the same thing, and that can really help you as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. And people just appreciate it when you're like humble and open like that, like there's even sometimes at work now where I'm like messaging the junior developers like, hey, I'm totally stuck on this. Could you pair program with me for, and it's like different people know different things, right? There's always something you can learn from someone or something that you could get help on. And
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's got a different perspective, haven't they? So it's
mhm.
always good to give someone else a shout.
And definitely the exercise, man, I haven't been to the gym in so long. I miss it, it's just like forget what exercising is like.
Yeah, I mean, I miss it, and then you do like 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, I don't miss it anymore.
Mhm.
So it is a hard one
Yeah,
to sort
right.
of push
Once you
through.
actually start running, you're like,
Yeah, that's it. So I just go with my dog, and she runs off, so she keeps me going because
mm,
she's running ahead a million miles an hour.
yeah, cool. So what else do you like to do for fun? Just besides coding?
I mean, what can I do for fun at the moment? Not a lot, really.
Mm,
I used to like going out, to dinner and stuff, and um, the theatre and the gym, and anywhere that I can't go right now. But yeah, what have I been up to really? Not a lot. Just walking in the woods with my dog. That's
mm,
about as big as my social life is at the moment. And a lot of Netflix binging. Um,
okay.
one thing
Yep.
I do really love is Supercross. And that the season starts again in January. So the
Mm,
2020 season was a bit messed up. Um, obviously because of COVID. So I'm hoping
yep.
2021 will be better.
Yeah, for sure. We're all hoping 2021 will be better. Yep. And I just had to bring up, you have so many Twitter followers. Like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, that always gets brought up. I don't know how. They're definitely not bought. Um, they are genuine. Uh, yeah, I think it was just when I had a bit more time, it, when I first started learning and I was doing 100 days of code, I was posting quite actively, and I was quite open about struggles I was
Mm,
having and asking for help, and also sharing things that I'd learned. And I think my blog articles that were aimed at sort of other beginners on subjects like Git and GitHub, I think they were really well received. So I think that's where my following grew from.
mm,
Um, but I think it's just a case of being sort of, like we were saying before, open and honest and humble, um, and sharing good content, I think.
mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. And that's the way to do it, you know? That's how everyone should be, kind of, I think, when you get into it. Like, make a little brand, like put yourself out there. You're just like another engineer out here in the world. And you might as well, connect
Yeah.
with other people and put out your tweets, all the interesting things you learn, and also the things you're stuck on, because other people will find it interesting, just the things that you're thinking about at the moment, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a really supportive network. In particular, there's a group of girls who I chat to a lot, probably every day actually. We all met on Twitter, and anytime I'm struggling, I'm like in there like, girls, what do you know about this? And some of them are like, I don't know. And then others like, oh, come on, let's hash it out together. So yeah, I mean, it just shows that not everybody knows everything, and like you say, different people can help with different things.
Right, definitely, yeah. And even it's awesome having those other kind of communities, resources you can go to when you're stuck, because it just makes things a lot easier than just like spending weeks like banging against the wall, not getting anywhere.
Yeah,
Definitely. And is that right? Your birthday is March 21st?
that is right.
What? My birthday is March 21st. That's crazy.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Weird coincidence.
Yeah, I always meet loads of people with the same birthday as me. Like a few people in school had the same birthday. And
Oh,
then
wow.
in senior school, my we shared the same birthday. So every year she'd buy me like a donut or a cake from the tuck shop. And she was like a really evil teacher, she was the one that wasn't liked. But every year on my
Oh.
birthday, I'd get cake from her. So I was like, why does she like you so much?
That's funny. Um, cool. So I'm kind of getting towards the end of my questions. Do you have any just
Yeah.
sort of advice for people who are like just getting started or considering going to a boot camp, or just looking at this industry from outside it, still unsure?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say do it. Definitely get involved if you're just on the periphery and you're thinking about the industry. Definitely have a look into it. I mean, there's so much you can do. Like you don't even have to be a programmer to be involved in IT. You can be a project manager, or you can go into networking or hardware, that sort of side of it. And we need more women in tech. So yeah, if you're a woman, definitely get involved. Um, and if you're just starting out, keep going. If there's something you're stuck with, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like everyone is so supportive, especially on Twitter. I find everyone's so willing to help. And although they might respond with something that's like way above your head, just stick with it, and sort of you'll find someone who can explain it to you on your level, I promise. And yeah, just basically keep going and don't be disheartened if you're not getting something. I mean, my first week looking at React, like my first day, I was like, oh my God, I love React. It's amazing. And then as the week went on, I was like, I don't understand anything. I'm never going to be able to pick this up. And then the next week we built a project with it, and now I love it. So I think, yeah, there's definitely going to be those peaks and troughs where you think you're like God, and then you think you're like, you don't know anything. So I definitely had one of those moments earlier this week. And I was sort of in a bit of a tiz. I wasn't sleeping because I was so panicked about getting my portfolio done. Because bootcamp are reviewing the work that we do on the portfolio now, because we're adding in our bootcamp projects. So I was stressing about getting it done on time. And I was like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do anything. I'm never going to be able to get a job. And my boyfriend was like, just look, a minute ago you said you didn't know Python, and then last week you built a project using Python. So just, shut up, go and have a nap, and you'll be fine. So yeah, definitely stick with it and don't be disheartened.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And I even sometimes say that, like, even if you don't want to work as a software engineer, just like, try one of the free code camp things or something, just, I forget, I think it was Steve Jobs like to quote that, like, everyone should learn how to code because it teaches you how to think. It just gives you a different perspective on technology and just helps with just like logical reasoning skills, putting pieces together. Um, but definitely, I think it
And
would
it's
be cool.
fun.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially when it works, and it's like, wow, I built this thing. This is what I wanted to do, and I can just run it anytime, and it will do that. It's like having a little robot there working for you, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Cool. Well, I guess that's it. Uh, Thanks so much for doing this, Laura.
No, thank you. It's been really good.
Hmm. For sure. Good luck with your search and all your projects. And yeah, definitely stay in touch.
I will.
Cool. All right. I guess that's all for this episode.
Okay.